My name is Megan Hibbert, and I chose to do my presentation on undocumented immigrants and their health concerns. Like the slide says, undocumented immigrants are defined as foreign nationals who lack proper authorization to be in the United States. These people mostly include Hispanics in the United States at this time, as the majority of immigrants that are here undocumented are from South America and Mexico. This population is vulnerable because they are more susceptible to material and economic hardship. In fact, they're more than twice as likely than US families to pay over 50% of their income only for housing. They're twice as likely as a US citizen to be uninsured. They have limited English proficiency and have restricted access and participation in public safety net programs. This population is very vulnerable due to all of these facts and many more, which is something that I will talk about in this presentation. But we don't necessarily have a super large undocumented immigrant population here in Davis County. In Utah, undocumented immigrants comprise about 38% of the immigrant population in Utah and 3% of the total state population. So we have less undocumented immigrants than in other states. And I think part of this is one, we're kind of in the middle of the country. So it's easier to get to border states. And two, the thing about undocumented immigrants is that you can never really get a super accurate number due to the fact that they're undocumented. However, overall in the US, there's approximately 12 million undocumented immigrants. Undocumented immigration is also a problem internationally, with approximately 5.6 to 8.4 million undocumented immigrants currently residing in the EU. Though there are many social determinants of health that are barriers for this population, the ones I chose to focus on are quality of education and job training, language/literacy, and access to educational, vocational, and economic opportunities. Due to that fact, I included this picture that shows the states that offer in-state tuition for undocumented immigrants. As you can see, it's not as many as we would hope for. As discussed previously, undocumented immigrants are more likely than natives to pay more than half their income in housing alone. They lack opportunities for good jobs that would provide them with adequate income. And their access to healthcare is really restricted because a lot of them don't have insurance. In fact, over 50% of children of undocumented immigrants are uninsured at this time. Other things that are a concern for them is the fact that they may not be able to speak English as well, limiting, again, their job opportunities and their acculturation into the United States. I think the ultimate root cause of all these problems is fear. Given the current immigration laws and recent discrimination acts that have raised fear among undocumented immigrants, it's likely that they're going to continue to face health disparities. The current state of immigration enforcement has become a public health concern because foreign-born individuals are at an increased risk of having active TB and HIV and not getting treatment because of fear of arrest or deportation. There have been increased reports of persecution from the US Immigration and Customs Enforcement, including agents arresting people outside of churches or homeless shelters or targeting people with foreign sounding names. Though they're not supposed to arrest people in sensitive locations, homeless shelters, food banks, and other locations providing disaster relief are not considered sensitive. Ultimately, undocumented immigrants face the problems that they do because they live in fear every day that they'll be deported and all their hard work to build a better future for their children will be for nothing. So, tiers that I think these immigrants may not have as much of a problem reaching are the physiological tier and the love and belonging tier. There's a big sense of community among these people. So they have love, friendship, and support, and for the most part are able to meet the needs of food and water. However, every other tier is unmet. The need for safety for self, for security of home and security of income, being able to build self-esteem and self-actualization are really difficult when you face the kind of discrimination that people in this population face. However, due to the fact that Maslow's pyramid says that you can only advance to an upper tier by meeting the needs in the one below it, most undocumented immigrants are going to be stuck on the physiological tier forever. Due to this fact, compared to the general population, undocumented immigrants will have poorer outcomes and will continue to have poorer outcomes unless we can change something. Because of this fear of deportation, undocumented immigrants are especially at risk for diseases like HIV, TB, and hepatitis A, diseases that are easily treatable, but they won't seek treatment because of this fear. Other health concerns for this population include lower rates of immunization among their children, the stigma and denial of mental health care, higher rates of obesity among children, and overall, they're just less likely to receive preventative measures for uh, diseases like asthma, high blood pressure, cardiovascular disease, all coming back to the root cause of fear. Interestingly enough, in a study performed with over 500,000 recent immigrants and over 8 million long term residents, recent immigrants have lower rates of suicide and self harm compared with the long term residents. The researchers hypothesized that this was due to the fact that immigrants saw terrible things in their country. They went through abuses before coming here for a better life, and therefore they were more resilient. However, they still face a great deal more of mental illness, including depression and anxiety, because they're facing challenges with the lower income and trying to adjust to being in a new country and the discrimination that they experience. Well, we hear in the news all the time about immigrants causing problems or committing crimes. Studies show that it's actually a very low percentage of the undocumented immigrants that are committing these crimes or seeking to do harm to others. However, due to a multitude of things, including poverty and their risk for deportation, they're often victims of crime. With poverty, they're living in poorer areas with higher crime rates, and they're dealing with different kinds of people. But according to a study done about deportation laws and customs, children of undocumented immigrants experience a threat of violence during deportation daily, and most have witnessed especially brutal treatment, including enforcement officers detaining parents of children needing treatment right outside the hospital. And I think that was the hardest thing for me to find out of all the things that I researched in this is that often their threat for violence is greatest by the people seeking to deport them. So, biggest thing that I learned from this is that change needs to happen. We, as healthcare workers, need to step up to make a difference for this vulnerable population and do what we can within our own scope. Thank you again for watching this presentation, and I hope you have a wonderful day.